The Pear Affair, Epilogue. Every day now, Nell woke with a smile. How could she not smile when the first thing she saw was blue sky and Parisian rooftops outside her tiny casement window? When she knew that Pear was alive and well and working to clear her name? When for the first time in years her life stretched out in front of her, unimpeded by trouble and full of possibility and promise? Very quickly, Nell's days took on a pattern. In the morning, she would swing out of bed and pull on her brand new scarlet uniform. The trousers were the right length, and she no longer had to breathe in to do the buttons up. She didn't have to hide her hair under the cap either. After the whole story had been splashed across Le Monde, Monsieur Jacques had wasted no time in declaring Nell an official belle girl. He had marched straight into the director's office and demanded it. All the hotel staff had cheered like crazy when the announcement was made. "I suppose it'll keep you out of trouble," Michel had said, twinkling, and Nell and Zav had both jumped about in glee. She was good at it, she enjoyed it, and there were still 2 weeks to go before school started, French school. For the present, Nell was staying with Michel and Zav in their attic rooms. The twins' mother, who worked in City Hall's child protection department, had organised it. It was the perfect solution. Everyone agreed, even though a tiny part of Nell missed the coziness of her bed in the laundry room. Soon, once everything was settled, Nell would be going to live with Pear and Coco in the flat in the Boulevard Saint-Germain. In the meantime, she saw them every day, usually at lunchtime, in the Tuileries or the Jardin du Luxembourg, where they would laze on the grass and eat bread and apples and cheese. It was a precious time that they all treasured, before Coco's matinees and in between Pear's meetings with the police and her lawyers. After lunch, Nell would meet up with Zav and Paul and Paulette, and they'd sprint through the tunnels to Chez Ben Amour, where they were helping Soutine and his family redecorate the shop in time for the grand reopening planned for the following week. Now that the spore had been identified, the scientists had invented an antidote, and slowly all the boulangerie were getting back on their feet. The Bernards, too, had moved out of the cave and back into their premises on Rue Mouffetard, and Mimi was determined to tempt Nell back down to the catacomb. Sometimes Nell would catch the metro to Belleville and meet up with Emile for a lemonade. He had taught her how to swing backwards on the bars, and she could dangle upside down now for hours. He was still caring for Pear's cat, Sylvie, because Coco's landlord wouldn't allow any pets. Colette, he told Nell with pride in his eyes, had been promoted from editor's secretary to junior reporter. Most days at 6, Nell would meet Neige outside Crown Couture, always bringing along a pile of Coco's books for Neige to read. She devoured them, tearing through the pages and then discussing them with Coco afterwards. Meanwhile, Aunt Sophie grew stronger by the day. At Christmas, she would return to work, and Neige would be able to leave Crown Couture and go back to school. Her ambition, she told Nell, was to study philosophy at the Sorbonne. It was on one of those days when Nell was lurking about on the roof du Faubourg Saint-Honoré, out of sight in case Madame Josette or Valérie spotted her, that the door opened and Monsieur Crown burst out. Terrified, Nell shrank back. She really didn't want a repeat performance of their first encounter. "Come, come," he said, as though a crossword had never been spoken between them. "Wait until you see." But Nell looked down to check if she was wearing what she thought she was wearing. She was. How odd. He didn't appear to be quailing at the sight of her sweatshirt and jeans. Monsieur Crown was already dashing back in, his round pinstriped form bobbing along ahead of her, so she pushed through the door and followed him up the narrow winding stairs. "Voila," he said, bouncing aside so that Nell came face to face with a dress the like of which had never been seen before in Paris. It was an extravagant gown made entirely from a patchwork of red sweatshirt and blue denim. "The Penelope dress," he said with a sweeping bow, "in honour of you, mademoiselle, who so courageously saved the city's boulangerie, and to say sorry for our role in the disappearance of Pear." He looked so sheepish, and the dress so outlandish, that Nell burst out laughing. She had been named after a bag, and now a dress had been named after her. "It's lovely, monsieur." It was the unexpectedness of it that delighted her. She held the dress up against her and spun around. The denim bits whipped and the sweatshirt pieces swirled, and she went round and round until the world went dizzy, and when she stopped she had to grasp Monsieur Crown's arm to steady her. "There's just one thing," she said. "Can we call it the Nell dress?" That is my name. Paris Match, December 1969. On Saturday, the actor Mademoiselle Coco Swann and the couturier Mademoiselle Perrine Chaumet hosted a reception at the Hotel Crillon for all the bakers of Paris and their children. It has been 6 months since the ex-mayor Victor Henry was arrested and charged with sabotaging hundreds of boulangeries in order to expand his own empire. Investigative reporter Colette Colbert has since uncovered vast underground cellars stockpiled with wine intended to be distributed under the label Fantastique once existing supplies had been contaminated with Spore 13. The occasion at the Crillon also celebrated the launch of Atelier Pear, the new label set up by Chaumet with financial backing from Swann. During the toast, Mademoiselle Chaumet made the surprise announcement that she has been granted permission by the French and British authorities to officially adopt a 12-year-old child named Penelope Magnificent, henceforth known as Nell Minou Chaumet Swann. It was a glittering occasion with excellent canapés provided by the Ben Amours of Rue des Martyrs. The end.